We're going to start this one off with a little public service announcement. I mentioned a video or two ago when I was tearing this thing down that I was looking at the brake lines that I'd put in, and they were supposed to be the copper nickel brake lines. Easy to bend, don't kink up, just soft, pliable, easy to flare. What could go wrong, right? All right, well, I'll show you what did go wrong. So I had mentioned, here's the old chassis just kind of laying in here still. The place is a mess, all right? It's just a damn mess. There's stuff laying everywhere. And I had to pull the Mustang inside for a little bit for some reason. And anyway, it's a mess. So, is what it is there. The brake lines I'm talking about, this is the worst part. So, this is copper nickel that I got off of Amazon. See that? That's rust. That's what it's not supposed to do, right? So doing a little research, I went back to my orders back from 2022, and I had bought two of these. Two kits, 25 foot, 3/16. That's the part number that I got off Amazon. Anyway, didn't even break into the second kit. First kit was enough to do the entire truck and even some screw-ups. See, ran it all along the frame line. It was together, working. Had one little leak up here, but it had seemed to have sealed up. So, no big deal, right? Fast forward to when I decided to swap everything over to another chassis, I realized a debacle. So, I had originally thought, okay, I'm just going to, since these lines are all made, I'll be able to undo them, put them right back in, everything will be fine. And then I found that problem. So after the research, and I decided I'm not putting those back in, this truck had never hardly been outside and it started corroding that bad. Just in the shop. It drove to the front yard nationals, 100 yards? Around the yard a few times, checking out the clutch and messing with the brakes. That is it. Never hit the road. All right? So I do a little research. Like I said, pulled up my order, found that I bought two of them, and went to that ad because they still sell it. And it says, how was it worded? Copper nickel coated 3/16 line. Corrosion proof. Rust and corrosion proof. Lie. Okay? Fell for that. It was fairly cheap. It worked real good. I don't know what it's made out of or what it has in it. But it will corrode. Guarantee you it will corrode because you can see it right there. So got back online and I had ordered some 1/4 inch for some reason. I can't remember why I ordered this. This for lifetime lines. I see them advertising on Amazon as well. So I looked it up and it says in that ad, true copper nickel line. There's the difference, my friends. Coated true copper nickel line. Look at the color difference too. So if you have any of this and you're going to use it for brake line, I suggest you don't. I suggest you throw it in the shop, use it for something else. I don't know. Maybe even throw it in the trash so you don't confuse it. But if you look at the difference in color. So I think this for lifetime lines, I saw it when I ordered my new because I went and bought some more. I got it this time from the Stop Shop, who sells on Amazon. Again, look at the difference. So read the ad close. Make sure it's not copper nickel coated. It's true copper nickel line. All right. It's my public service announcement. Like I said, I got it from the Stop Shop. Very reasonable. I used the Stop Shop because Cam had bought his from there and no problems. But I don't think there's anything wrong with this for lifetime lines either. They sell on Amazon as well, like I said. So, public service announcement there for you. Because us at Hindsight, we like to screw up and test the waters. So, you don't have to. All right, so we're back on this thing. And that's what we're going to do today, brake lines. So, I think I'll just basically start at the back. I got to figure out my mounting point for my rubber line over here somewhere. Go back to my old chassis. Maybe switch some brackets over, I don't know. Also just noticed on this chassis, the shock mounts are different. It's got that style, where the old chassis has that style. And there's my brake line mount. I'm gonna have to rob that off there or make something like it. Anyway, don't know. I think I bought shocks for this, so that could be a problem. But either way, it's fine. I have to make new mounts, figure out where everything's going to lay out anyway, so may not even use those mounts. May chop those off or do something different with those, or who knows, but we'll get there when we get there. Brake line day today. Let's get it. Let's get all this old junk off of here, and let's run some brake lines. It's got a front clip back on it. Look at that. Last night, Bryson, Woody, and Mark helped me get that hung back on there. Wasn't too bad. A little wiggling here and there. Bolts are in it, but it's not sitting. I mean, it's not lined up and bolted up yet. So that's the goal tonight. Get that stuff bolted up. When it went on pretty good. Gaps are pretty good, and it's just sitting there. What I want to point out is the frame, and I know this filler panel isn't in the greatest condition. I mean, I just kind of beat it straight and put it on there. That's why it's not white, because it's not done yet. But the fact that first time just sitting it on there, it's even from side to side. The frame horns in the notches, that's a good sign. And probably can't see it because it's too dark down there, but when we sat it on and everything just kind of fell into place, that's a nice feeling. The holes for the core support lined up great. This gap needs a little bit of help at the bottom, but I mean, it's just sitting on there. I haven't even tried to adjust anything yet. So basically, I'm saying all that to say we're in much better condition with this frame than we were with this frame. So this frame, they were asking me last night, what are you gonna do with it? And as much as I'd like to crush it because it's caused me trouble, I think that would be a very stupid idea because somebody could use this frame. It's a true short bed frame, 67 or 8. We'd have to run the numbers to see. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But if somebody was to want to get this straightened, get it pulled, now would be the time. With nothing on it, take it to the frame shop. They block it up. I'm probably 2, 3, 4 hours of pulling, and this thing's back good as new. The only reason I didn't fix it is because it was going to cost a lot more, because they wanted me to have all my bed off, my tank back out, and wanted to be able to access stuff, and just in case they'd have to heat anything. And I get it. I completely get it. And it's my fault. I talk about being pissed because, caused me so much trouble. I'm the one who created this problem because I knew that this was bent a long time ago, yet I kept going thinking it wasn't going to be much to pull it. Well, as it turned out, if I'd had it done when it was like this, it probably wouldn't have cost much to pull it. But since I kept going, that was a bad idea. And that was my idea. So can't blame that on anybody but me. So anyway, it's probably going to be up for sale. I'll probably throw it on F100 World or a couple of the other forums, and not much, but I got to try to get something out of it to recoup some of my loss. I'm only going to pull a couple more things off of it, and it's ready to roll. And I just can get it out of here. So it'll probably be, either way, it'll probably be sitting out back behind the shop. So yeah, front end back on, get it bolted up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time aligning stuff because I want to get the bed on before I really start moving stuff around, because I don't want to spend a bunch of time lining up the front clip, put the bed on it, and realize I have to shift the cab a little bit, and then it'll throw everything off. So I'll get the bed back on within the next couple of days, but I'll get this kind of bolted up, at least secure for now. Like I said, everything fell into place. It fits well, so no concerns at all there. I'm going to get this bunch of spaghetti under here kind of laid back out where it belongs. I have some work to do on my air filter placement, that box, and I need to run my 2 front brake lines, and just, miscellaneous. Got to get my battery box back in. Lots to do. So instead of babbling, I need to get to doing. I put the drive shaft in, And I was trying to figure out, it was super tight right in here. And I'm like, I mean, I barely had like a couple of fingers I could put in there. I'm like, I don't remember being that tight. Well, then I realized what was up. This bracket was still on there, which is for the long bed for the carrier bearing for the drive shaft. Because the long bed had a 2-piece drive shaft. So, and of course it wasn't bolted on. It was huck riveted on. So, anyway, cut that dude off. Cut off wheel and my air chisel just did the job just fine. So, got that obstacle out of the way, got the drive shaft in. We keep moving. Much like the video you saw of me transferring the cab from that chassis right there to this chassis, sometimes you got to get creative when you're working by yourself and you got to move heavy items. So the bed's been sitting on these stands, and I took the steam rollers off the back of the truck so I could just basically slide it along. But I don't want to drag it across the chassis because I don't really want to scratch it up, even though it wouldn't hurt anything. So I'm using some wood and slowly inching it. I put the rear end on some rollers so I could lift the bed up a little bit, slide the chassis underneath it for a little bit, and then kind of wiggle. But getting it done, I'm going to kind of test fit the bed. And the reason I'm doing that is I started to transfer my measurements for my tank brackets, my tank mount brackets that go cross frame. Well, that setup right there. Those bolt to the frame and then the straps come around. You remember, you've seen it on past videos. And that's the thing that I talked about wanting to change when I transferred this chassis. But I talked myself out of changing it. A couple of reasons. Budget. I don't want to go get another tank when I have a perfectly good tank here. The other reason is, like I've said throughout this whole build, I want to be able to, if this truck is out and about anywhere, I drive it to Louisville, I drive it to California, I drive it to the East Coast, and I have a problem, I want to be able to not really have anything special, offbeat, aftermarket, kind of weird tank, anything like that. I can go to any auto parts store and pick up a tank if I need it pretty quickly, or a fuel pump if I need it pretty quickly. So I've decided, because there is some other tanks. I've had a Mustang tank, the one you have to modify the rails for to get it in. And I opted out of that, sold that tank. And I've been talking to Cam about some other tanks. He's using, I believe, a Suburban tank. The fuel pumps are different. I just decided this tank, this fuel pump goes with this engine. And it was all at one time, one truck out of the 92 F-150. So screw the modifying with the aftermarket stuff. Let's stick to factory stuff. The way I'm going to build this inside of this bed, which will not, be show truck worthy, is I'm going to have an access panel here that will probably bolt on so that if I have a problem and I need to pull the whole entire tank, all I do is lift this panel off and you access the tank, which is on the top of the frame, in the middle, not hanging out the back like some of these other different tanks have been, where you have to move these cross members, leave it alone. I had to redo the whole bottom of this bed anyway, because it was all rusted out, which is the reason why you see those bars going there, these bars going here. I still have to do some more mod to the tops of the tubs, because if the rear end, gets in a bind, you're going into a parking lot and it's all crooked or something, the tires are still rubbing a little bit on top. So I still have modifications to do. And I'm not going that aftermarket tank way or a different tank way. I just think this is going to be easiest. I'm not going to lose that much bed space because this panel is going to bump up maybe 8 inches up off the original floor height. And then I'll have my original floor height from that bar back. So forget that. I'm leaving that alone. It worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I said all that to say this. When I started measuring these from the old chassis over to the new chassis, I'm getting some conflicting measurements of about 1/2 inch. So that tank, if you remember, the brackets were very tight up to the front cross member. So here's the front cross member of the bed. The tank bracket was very close to it. It worked good. It was nice and tight. You could still access the bolts and everything. But when I start looking at measurements like that and being off a little bit, I'm just like, you know what? Let's set the bed on it. Get that tank in there. I only want to drill these holes for these tank brackets. I only want to drill them once. So let's just put the bed on it. Double and triple check our measurements. And then we can check the bed bolt areas because, you know, I watched all those videos about shortening these long bed chassis to a short bed chassis. But I never really saw them put the bed back on and see how well the bed holes line up and everything. So we're going to do that too. We're going to get it all done because I just basically guessed on those mounting holes in the back of the chassis, which I wasn't going to do and I probably shouldn't have done. But now we'll know how close my guess was. So that's it. That's the update. Let's get this bed on the rest of the way without it falling down, going boom. And get that tank fit and bolted up. After that, fill the radiator, finish putting some oil in it, and I think we're ready to fire again. Yeah, give it a whirl. A little bit more progress, not a whole lot that's visible. The cab is bolted down, front and back. I got underneath it, squared it up. I was hoping it was off the way the bed was sitting on there. And sure enough, it was. I had to scoot the cab over about 1/4 inch to get it square to the frame. Bolted it down, bolted down the radiator support, lined up the hood a little bit in the front. Didn't mess with any of the other sheet metal. I just wanted to get that hood fitting a little bit better. Everything looks good. Once I squared the cab to the frame, I just bolted on the bed and made it fit, basically is what it amounts to. Because once I knew the cab was square to the frame, it's visibly, if the bed looks good to the cab, you're done. So the distance from here to here is pretty much the same on both sides, maybe a 1/16 of an inch difference. I love this gap on the driver's side. I love it. Fits great. The other side, it's a little tight at the top. So, I mean, not bad, but I wish it fit exactly like this side. But it doesn't. So I'm going to write that off to, that's probably the way it was built, because these are the original bed sides. I don't know what else it could be. Because everything else looks pretty good. Like right in here, it looks about the same on both sides. Might be a little bit tighter over there, but not much. But just right at this corner up here, for some reason, it's a little tighter on the other side. It's even. This side, pretty even on that side. I'm going with it. Mounted my tank, remounted my tank tonight. Changed the mounting. Instead of having those brackets that bolted to the frame and I strapped it to those, I strapped it to this bed brace. I put new pads underneath it where it's sitting on the frame. Bolted it to the bed brace right there. And then bolted it through this cross member, and it's got that stud, and then you just tighten the nut and it draws the strap down. Tightened down real good. It's all square. Sitting in there good. Bed, like I said, is completely bolted down. Nice and square to the cab. So I'm ready to move forward on that. As I've talked about, those braces are just in there to kind of keep everything square. Now that the bed is bolted down completely, and I'm happy with it, I'm going to finish massaging these tubs because they're just a little bit too close. So I'm basically going to take the wheels off and just work that with my air hammer and just stretch those tubs and just clearance them a little bit more. And then once I get that done, I can get these stupid braces out of here and go bug Mark about laying some sheet metal down, figure out what I'm going to do there. I'm not doing a bunch to the inside of this bed because once I get everything kind of squared up, get some sheet metal bead rolled and laid down in there, and build my box for my tank that'll have the removable top, I'm gonna grind it down, smooth up some spots, and it's getting some Raptor liner in there. Have to figure out my tank, my neck, filler neck, some way, shape, or form. I gotta figure that out, get a little creative with that. But goal eventually is to have a flush tonneau cover sitting in here. I've got a couple of tonneau covers out there to experiment with. So yeah, that's the goal there. So, and I'm hoping it'll pop up like that. But I don't want it laying over the top. I want it just sitting in there flush. So if I can't have it doing that, then I ain't gonna have it. I think that's pretty much it tonight. I was glad to get the body squared up. The only problem I had once I bolted the cab down was the passenger door drops a little bit now when you open it. I'll just have to adjust that out a little bit. But everything else is good. I did notice that I'm going to have to, now that I've had my fenders back off, that whole front end when I took it off, I noticed that I pretty much lost the clearance that I worked so hard to get for turning. So back to the drawing board. Oh well, that's the way it goes. So that's pretty much it. I can plug that tank in and I could hit the key and this thing should fire. Be back kind of where I started from before I swapped the chassis out. Let's keep moving.